MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Hello, welcome to the MedBix webcast. This is Ramana Namaraju. No, I'm not Albert Einstein. I'm going to talk about actually Albert Einstein of medicine. It's very interesting. He's a Persian physician. It's going to be very interesting. You know that I'm in healthcare for a long time. You know, I placed a lot of doctors around the country, and then I ran a imaging center. I can tell you something. Patient advocacy is going to be the central in the future course of the healthcare. The patient advocacy is the genesis for the healthcare is not not an insurance, not a health plan, not even the drugs. It is the patient, not even a physician. It is a patient is the genesis of the care. So patient advocacy has to play a role. That is, we are all realizing now how important is the patient advocacy. Now I'm going to talk with a very important woman, and from Boston. She is joining with us, Shiella Dowlatshahi. I'm doing good. I hope so. So, actually, I grew up in a small village in India, that where my temple, the Hindu temple, the scripts are all Persian. We were ruled by Pallavas from Iran. So I remember the script. It looking a very script. I remember that. So, but the still names are a little bit challenging. But I hope I said right. Welcome, Shiella Dowlatshahi. Did I say it right?
That's perfect. Dowlatshahi is
Dowlatshahi.
that's
Yeah.
great.
So tell me, Dowlatshahi, you're a former head of the Acacia Pharmaceuticals. Tell me your background up to this point. What you've gone through, what education, and how did you end up in Boston?
Sure, absolutely. Would be happy to. So, my past is a very long and complex one, but to shorten it just a little bit, I grew up watching my immigrant physician father practice medicine in a way that just left me in awe of his talent, his love of learning, his love of teaching. Science was remarkable. So, I remember learning from him how to read EKGs when I was about 12 years old. When he took us to the office and we helped out at the office as teenagers, I remember listening to his medical tapes on the way home. And I just really grew very, very interested in learning about science, and got into the pharmaceutical biotech industry very, very young. And from there, I continue to move up. Thankfully, with increasing responsibilities, my last role as an pharma leader was heading up the scientific and medical relations. Along the way, I had to advocate for my child who was diagnosed early on with an autoimmune disease. And that's really one of the first times I realized, like you said, really important to have a patient advocate by your side. I happen to be the mom of this child. So, of course, a mom is intuitive. I always tell physicians, always listen to what the family member says about their loved one. And I had a hard time getting a physician to listen. And, subsequent to my passion for advocacy, my child did much better. He was diagnosed with the autoimmune disease and ended up faring much better than he would have had it not been for mom pushing to make sure that the right tests were done to diagnose this disease. So that was what started it pulled me into patient advocacy. I joined the board of Crohn's and Colitis Foundation shortly thereafter, and for the past decade, I've been very involved there with, advancing legislature that helps patients, making sure that insurance companies make it easy for patients to be able to take medications they need or switch to other medications when necessary, and ended up actually going back to school, to grad school at Tufts here in Boston, to get my master's in pain research, education, and public policy. And the whole area of pain is intriguing to me, and it's been phenomenal in terms of studying this field.
Sheila, so we are all, everybody understand, and trying to understand patient advocacy. What is a patient advocacy? Who are the patient advocates? Can you expand on that basis? Why you decided to go in the more in that direction? You briefly touched it, but can you expand that area? Why
Yeah,
the
so
what is a patient advocacy is?
quite frankly, patient advocacy can be anyone who has the best interest of the patient in mind. In other words, you are there to distill the facts as they are presented to you by the medical professional and try to figure out which path is the best path for either your loved one or whomever that you are representing. If the medical system presents so many barriers. There are just so many challenges in today's healthcare system. One has to fight perhaps for authorization of diagnostic tests to be done. One has to fight for authorization of medications to be approved or specialists to be approved to be seen by the patient. So there are just so many steps and so many barriers in today's healthcare that a patient or a family member may not be able to anticipate all of the barriers and the challenges to healthcare. And so, a patient advocate's role is to really take down as many barriers as possible so that the family and the patient can focus on getting better, or getting through a healthcare crisis.
So navigating through the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical, what are the drugs or side effects or all those, you're ambassador for the patients. Why it is becoming so important nowadays than never is ever before. Why you think that is important now? Patient advocacy is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is my feeling, however, that everything else has become such a corporation in terms of the medical industry, and everything is monetized now in medicine, making it very, very difficult when the patient is no longer the North Star. It's the profit that's the North Star driving the massive hospital systems out there. And so I think that it becomes much more difficult for individuals to advocate for themselves. And it requires someone who knows, as you said, how to navigate the system and how to take down barriers. And it's sad. I'm not, and I've, as you well know, I've a book that was released just recently has a whole section about medicine then and medicine now, and the differences between where medicine was, where the focus was truly on the patient, and where medicine is now with focus on profit, is why I believe there is an intermediary now needed to help the patient. It's become much more complex as a system, versus the past.
Talking about your book, Sheila, tell me about this. Why you inspired to write that book? What is the name of the book? And then we'll talk a little bit at the end also. But what is the and then during that process, yeah, tell me about the what inspired you to write the book.
Yeah, so really the genesis behind the book was a tribute to my father, the kind of doctor he was, the compassion and kindness he practiced, listening to the patient, just the way that he practiced medicine was to me incredible, something that I have not seen since. And so when he became the patient, I followed his journey as a patient, and sadly, he would always advocate for his patients. However, when he became the patient, we had to advocate for him because, as I said, the systems have changed so much. There was no quarterback. He didn't have a primary care who would also be involved in his hospital care. Those are two different divided things. So in the book, I talk a lot about his journey as a patient and lessons learned, and family dynamics play into they're interwoven into the book as well in terms of a family crisis, cultural differences, acceptance or non-acceptance of death come into play in the book as well. And of course, the main theme is how to better advocate for your loved one and how to be a better healthcare consumer, a better, more educated healthcare consumer.
Who can do
The
better than our daughter? You know that uh, the question is that people, I had a good friend of a surgeon friend. He told me what is a cancer pain looks like. He said that you take a saw and right on the bone. If you do that, that is a pain of a cancer. So tell me, you did a lot of research on the that you personally experienced it through your father, that what he went through, and then you did some research on the pain. Tell me, can you a little bit explain on that area a little bit?
So, pain is one of the most complex fields I have ever been exposed to. There is, all types and categories of pain. Pain is chronic, it can be acute. In cancer patients, they can have chronic pain complicated by acute flare ups and acute pain, and it is debilitating, as you said, and it becomes all encompassing. And we refer to pain as a physiologic, psychologic, and social phenomenon that actually changes the world of a person in pain. There is neuropathic pain, there is nociceptive inflammatory pain, and then functional and dysfunctional pain. And sometimes there's a combination of all of those in a cancer patient. So, as we do more research, there is a need to find different compounds that impact different types of pain. And sometimes the combination of those in a cancer patient may be more helpful to use one, two, or three different classes of drugs to address all the different types of pain. And as cancer progresses, sadly, so does the inflammation and so does the pain sensitivity. So the oversensitization of the pain receptors or nociceptors make that patient even more sensitized to even the smallest amount of pain. So, this whole combination makes it a very, very difficult field to study, to measure pain control, because as you know, it's very subjective. And finally, to have a medication that works well, is safe, and can play along in the basket of other drugs and is safe in terms of organs.
The pain is also cultural, right? Cultural kind of thing. In India,
Absolutely.
there is a saints, that there is the sadhus and all those people. They lay down on the bunch of nails as a blanket, and the nails
Yes,
blanket. So it's a cultural aspect involved also, and the spiritual and the cultural aspects are involved, right?
Absolutely. Well, there is such a thing as cognitive behavioral therapy, where the aim is to be able to train your brain to live with the pain. And I liken it to what you just described, although I cannot ever understand how
Mm.
people can lay on nails or a bed of fire, but it is similar in that you can train your mind to percept or not percept that level of pain. And that's something that's a new field in psychology, psychiatry, to help patients with chronic pain.
So I'm going to present because we were talking about culture. Let us talk about. I'm going to present a topic on about the polymath physicians. It's the cultural and the social and past history, and then after that I will come back and ask you about your book, and then where they can find that book. Okay, so you and me are
Wonderful.
going to watch together this. Watch together this.
I look forward to it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Let me, okay, that we are next to, we're watching side by side. So this is a polymath. What is the future physician? People are, a lot of physicians are kind of nervous a little bit and complaining about job security. And they say that Silicon Valley is coming. Here's like a British are coming. Silicon Valley is coming. They're going to take our jobs. They're all confused about it and they're all kind of worried about it. So this is the story of the polymath. That's why you require the interdisciplinary field understanding it. So I'm going to talk about uh, some of the some of the people in this one, neo-polymath physicians. That is the, you are bringing the physicians of the future are going to be we are going to get the similar kind of physicians from the past. That's very interesting concept. We're going to take concepts from the physicians of the past and then apply to the present day, the future physicians. In fact, that's what we need. So I'm going to talk about it. What is a polymath physicians are? A polymath physician is a individual whose knowledge is spread across several fields. A physician could be a poet, astronomer, a physicist, a mathematician, artist. There's several kind of things you could do. A doctor can do all those things. It's possible. Polymath is a person who knows a lot about a lot of subjects. That is simple way, very crude way of putting it together, but that's what it is. You don't have to know everything in detail, but at least you need to have an exposure to understand what is a polymath, what the other fields are. The top of the list of that field is from Persia. Persia, she's like Iran. That's like Shiella comes from. Uh, his name is Avicenna. Ibn Sina is called. He was born in the 10th century. Is 980, and then he died at 1037 AD. I would call him Einstein of medicine. I tell you why. He's a top of the list of the polymath physicians in my view. He is a physician, he's a philosopher, he's an astronomer, he's a medical author. He wrote several books on medical ethics. He's an astronomer. I tell you about what he did, and he was a philosopher. He's a medical ethics. He wrote several books on medical journals, and then physician. Of course, he's a physician. So what he is the first, actually more than that, is the first cardiologist. He used the calcium channel blockers. Is the first one used in the history of medicine. It's a carotid sinus hypersensitivity. As you know, it is a bradycardia and an hypotension and a vasodilation. All of them are combination that could be fatal. You can pulse. You can put my father used to. My father was a doctor and a teacher. He used to check this pulse here. He is a master of pulsology. Avicenna is a Latin name, Avicenna. Ibn Sina is a Persian name. Is Avicenna, they Latinized that name. That's why it's called Avicenna. So he was a master of all the. He was a pulsology. Actually, he used to tell girl. He used to tell where was. He used to touch it. He was one of the founders of the lie detector test. That he used to check the pulse of the guys, the young men, that where their girlfriends are. He used to tell them, tell me what the province is, what the street name is, what the address of the street is. That by the time he can see the rapid pulse rate, he can tell where exactly his girlfriend was staying, was living. He was good at that. That was his specialization, I think, during those times. But he wrote also extensive work he did in cardiology. He was the first book on cardiac diseases called Kitab al Advait Kulb. If I say wrong, please, Sheila, correct me. But it's a book on cardiac diseases. It's the first book on cardiac diseases he wrote. And then used a calcium channel, the synthetic drugs used a long time ago. Is not in the 10th century physician used the calcium channel blockers. That's to use the heart pains and heart things, right? So you use a zernab, a extract from the Texas bacata. The bacata is a botanical name. It is actually English yew tree. It's a poisonous tree. That the English yew tree. Used to grow around where Avicenna grew up. So he used to give the medication that the zernab extracted from the English yew tree fruits, in fact. This now they found out it is a Taxus bacata is a botanical name, has the calcium channel blocker properties. They found out, so he is considered is definitely in the top of the list of the in the he was the first cardiologist in my view. Then he did a then top of it he did a wrote the textbooks. He wrote 6 volumes of the textbook on medicine, canon of medicine. It is 1,000 years. They are standard textbooks around the world, including the West. He is a standard textbook. He is a Pastor Galen. He got some education from Indian Hindu literature and the Greek literatures from the Galen. Other people, I think Galen came after him. I think, yeah, he is before Galen. I think so. He is a genesis of a lot of medical books. He is a 1,000 years. His books are standard books in the medicine from the West and East and everywhere.
Wow.
So the second one, he introduced why I call him Einstein of medicine. Not only in medicine, he did an experiment called a floating man. I'm a physicist. I have a master's in physics. Principle of equivalence is one of the fundamental principles, very good principles of the general theory of relativity. Is based on that. Is a general relativity by Einstein. Einstein gave expression of the gravity is not a force. It is illusion of space-time curvature. When he decided the gravity, the acceleration due to gravity is a force because of that you feel because of acceleration, changing speed. So what he said that was when you fall in sky and then you don't feel your body or your arms or your legs, that he says that there is a soul to it and soul feels it. Actually, principle of equivalence is very close to it. In fact, he says that when you travel in space, if you don't have the reference frame, you cannot tell whether you're moving or not. Unless you accelerate the process. If there is something, acceleration has to be there. So that's why you cannot tell whether you're uniform speed or not. So you drop a hammer or a piece of paper on the planet of moon, they fall same time. It was done actually experiment is done by Neil Armstrong. So floating man idea of consciousness and soul existence, he gave. I will be talking about. I will be showing a video on the consciousness in a minute. So he gave the first example of the floating man and the existence of soul is almost he was in the lines thinking in the lines of Albert Einstein. He did also in the astronomy. He did the Venus. He considered Venus is a planet rather, and then he saw the shadow of the Venus on the sun that was what his observations. He did quite a bit of observations, and then he also invented tripod. So I come from same times, same areas. We don't know the people that from our history, but history teaches a lot of things that we have to be. That is another polymath physician. Avicenna is on the top of the list, no question about it. He is on the polymath physicians. The next one is Sushruta. is a plastic surgeon. He lived in the 1 century, 1,000 years, 100 years, uh, 1,000 years before Christ. He was born. Sushruta is a Vedic scholar from India. He did a rhinoplasty, cleft that he was doing. His instruments were listed in the, you see on the left side. They're not that much different nowadays in the surgery department. Is a more sophisticated, but the same instruments, kind of a same instrument they use. So in the 1,000 years before Christ, he came up with a plastic. He was a plastic surgeon. He was doing a nose surgery, and then he was doing a cleft also related to cleft, the people that with the deformities, when they were born. And then this all his literature was, I don't know why, how he ended up in the Los Angeles Museum of Art. That all his Sushrutas, all his literature is displayed in the Los Angeles Museum of Art. If you're there, please visit that. And if you go there,
Hmm.
the next one, the next one is Galen. Galen is, I'm not sure Galen is really a polymath or not, but he was a first one of the first physicians. Black bile, yellow bile is a Greek physician. Now he's present. He was born in the present day Turkey, I think. Black bile, yellow bile, and blood and the phlegm. He just he decided, he gave quite a bit. He wrote a lot of volumes of medical books, in fact. So I don't know how he did anything much outside of the medicine. He was a philosopher, but I can tell you, Ji Hong is definitely a polymath. Ji Hong is a born in 283 in China. Is a Chinese physician. He's a Chinese physician and a pharmacologist. He's a politician. He's a military cadet. He was a military Army Corps guy. He's a strong military man, and also he's a linguist. In fact, he wrote several books. He wrote fiction stories. Uh, Bapuzi, I think that he wrote books on the linguist. But he's a physician. He tops on the one of the things he did was the Xinghao is a wormwood, sweet wormwood. It's a grows a wild, it's a wild weed. It goes everywhere. It is just everywhere in China, or a lot of places. In fact, he took that sweet wormwood, that's a Xinghua they call. He took that and then put in the hot water and then extracted that water, and then he used to give to the people with the intermittent fevers. Intermittent fevers are, at that time, he didn't know the name of it, but it's a malaria. He
Mm.
was giving this medicine to malaria patients, getting cured. So what happened was, then in the when Mao came into the power, he wanted to invade, North Vietnam. He started war with the South Vietnam, and then he wanted to win the war. But a lot of his, North Vietnamese soldiers, and then there are people who are dying. Just, I'm going to put you temporarily in the mute, Sheila. Just, but you're staying there. You can see it because there is a noise coming out. That's, I can stop it. There, wait. Okay. Oh, I don't want to take hair out. You can put in the mute yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Ji Hong is a physician. What he did was, he took a Shanghao, a scrub from the widely grows in China. He took it and put in the hot warm water, and then extracted that water and used to give a medication for the intermittent fevers, which is now became a malaria. Then, when the Mao came in power and he wanted to invade the South Vietnam, along with the North Vietnamese, with the partnership with the North Vietnam, but his soldiers are dying in big numbers with the malaria. So he created a project called 523. I did a special program on G. Hong. He did a 523 project. 523 started it on May 23, 1967, I think. He started it, the project. Then, so he employed a woman. Her name is Tu Yuyu. Is a physician. She's a Chinese traditional medicine physician. She doesn't have any Western medical education at all. She's still alive, by the way. So she took the all his books, and then she transformed into she really read it very clearly and carefully, and then she extracted a compound called artemisinin. That is a compound now still we use it to treat malaria, as a combination drug that they use for malaria for the artemisinin. Is Novartis manufactures the artemisinin now, so they gave the contract to the Novartis. He wrote a book on the handbook for the emergencies. He wrote a book, a pocket book for the emergency handbook for the treatment of all small diseases, all these things. He wrote a book. That's actually so. He was a definitely polymath physician. He was a military commander, and then he was a governor. He was nominated. His family is from a very distinguished family from in China. Then he didn't care about all those things. He moved to a small rural China, and then he started practicing in rural China. In fact, in near the mountains of actually there is a still that mountain is there, Ji Hong Mountain they call in some near the province. Um, so actually Tu Yu won the Nobel Prize for her extraction of the artemisinin. She gave the credit to Ji Hong. Ji Hong is a military commander, is a physician and a politician and linguist, and they wrote a lot of fictional books for children and Chinese characters. Bapuzi, it's called. He is one of the top of um, the polymath physician. So multiple fields he understood. The next one, the next one is Girolamo. Oh yes, sorry, Girolamo Cardano is Italian physician. Is as you guess, Italian. He's a fun-loving guy. He's a party guy. A lot of girlfriends, and he's a gambler. He is a physician. He's a doctor. He was what happened was he was hired by a lot of several kings, queens, hired him as a doctor. He's a brilliant physician, but his fame came from a different area. He came from mathematics. He's my favorite doctor in my view from the past. What he did was actually the lock combination. He invented the lock combination, and he gave a game theory and a poker theory. He gave a extensive mathematical structure to the all this number theory they call now. They became a very advanced number theory. But what he was born in 1500 and 1576 he died. But I tell you what he did. So in mathematics, he did the cubic equation. Solving the cubic equation is a big thing at that time. The cubic equation, quadratic equations. When you throw a ball, so for example, it tells you not only the past of that ball, where it's coming from, initial conditions. If you tell me initial conditions, I can tell you 5 seconds from now where it's going to be, what speed is going to be. That is the quadratic equations will tell you. If you throw a ball, that's what the equations we find. Parabolic equations, quadratic equations give you all the information about the future of the ball's state of the effects of the ball. It gives you from the future to the future. But the cubic equation is more complicated. Is that there's a missing. So you see in the medical imaging, you do a lot of 3D reconstruction. They do the missing dimension. All the 3D reconstruction. I used to, in heart, they do Tomcat. They used to call Tomcat 3D reconstruction for the heart. They do a lot of reconstruction in the medical imaging. So that cubic equation is the key. The PowerPoint, for example, all these letters, that curving letters you see, all the fonts, it has to be done through the cubic equation. So you solve the cubic equation, the formula is solved. He's a doctor who solved. That's one of the most important contributions to the mathematics, in fact. So he was a prolific gambler, and his son became a gambler, and he spent all his money there, and he was broke all the time. So, it's familiar, looks like. So he is a very interesting character, and he died in 1576. But he's a most underrated, underrepresented in the history of medicine. He is definitely a great physician with uncanny abilities in mathematics. The next one is Rene Lennox. Lennox is a French physician. Is a French doctor. He was also a carpenter. He's a wood carver, and also is a musician. He had a band. He's a physician who had a band. So the reason is he was in the 1816. There was a huge volcano blew up in the mountains of Indonesia. So the entire Europe, including France, where he was from, was blanketed with the dust from the volcano. So what happened was there's a lot of people got sick, a lot of respiratory diseases and everything. He doesn't want to put his ear next to the. There's a lot of people, young people are coming, and that he has a wife, and that it's not a big problem for French people to. But he doesn't want to put his ear next to the heart of the young woman, and so he understood the flute. He was a flute player, so he took it and then he created a first stethoscope. He was the first designer of inventor of stethoscope. Invented stethoscope. Rene Laniak invented the stethoscope. So is a David Littman from Harvard actually upgraded this whole the stethoscope business, but he was the first inventor of the stethoscope. He's a wood carver, and his story was fascinating. So he's a musician. He got it from the music itself, from the flute music. Now, Benjamin Rush is a physician, is a politician, a social reformer from the United States. He was a father of American psychiatry, opposed slavery, criminal justice reformer. He is a very socially conscious person, the Benjamin Rush. In 1746 he was born, and 1813 he died. His lectures were so famous. There was a ticket on the left side. You see, it's a ticket for his show that people used to line up to see him. He used to prescribe a Turkish opium for the nervousness. I understood the opium business. So he was a very, he started mental hospitals. They call him father of psychiatry. American psychiatry. Now Sigmund Freud is a psychiatry of the psychology and psychiatry probably, but he is the father of the American psychiatry. Is the Benjamin Rush. The next one is the present day, but not all of the people are from the past. There is a lot of new people on the present day. Bill Frist is one of the senators. Is a physician. Is a famous. He won the majority Senate leader. Is a podcaster. His Second Opinion is a podcast. I watch quite a bit of that. His podcast, and then he passed one of the landmark legislation. Is called PEPFAR, President Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. The $110 billion fund is allocated until so far. It is the largest one single disease allocation of any other disease. That is, he has 5 honorary degrees from the black medical colleges. Historically, black medical colleges is a very well respected. Is from Nashville, and is a symbol of Nashville and the Southern gentleman, and is truly a great physician and a senator. He's a cardiac surgeon. So he is a modern day polymath. The next one is the new polymath physicians now. The Dr. Eric Topol. Both of them are on my LinkedIn, and I hope they watch my program. Dr. Eric Topol is a cardiologist. He was the first one who started a lot of writing extensive. He's the author of several books, but he writes a lot of the books in the particularly COVID-19 time. You saw his articles are very educational, and he's one of the digital. He was a proponent of the digital therapeutics, digital medicine. In fact, I would call him the father of the digital medicine. Is a Dr. Eric Topol. So he works in the Scripps Institute. Another doctor is Dr. Zubin Damania. Is a Persian. He's not a Persian. He's from India, but he's a Zoroastrian. He's a Parsi from Iran. They're originally from Iran. He has a ZDoc show. He has a ZDoc show. Everybody watches, and he's very, very articulate in a lot of areas. He talks about consciousness. He talks about recently I watched one of his video on the Donald Hoffman mathematics, how that the consciousness works. So that's very important to understand a lot of fields. There's a new millennial, the young people who are coming, Vidya Viswanathan. She's a Chinese historian. She became a physician and a writer. So that's a millennial polymaths now. There is quite a bit of them. Elizabeth Cord, she is a painter and a physician and a visual artist. She does a lot of these things, and these are all upcoming polymath physicians. So why do you need to learn different subjects? The question is, well, I'm a physician. I know how to take care of the patients. That's all I need to know. But that's not enough nowadays, as the way it's going. I tell you why. So, for example, the understanding of the blockchain. Blockchain is a technology. It's actually mathematical structure. Is a immutability is the fundamental, the central process of the blockchain is the runs on a immutability. Immutability means if I tell us something that that is registered, that's bad for politicians, but it is good for the you cannot erase anywhere. Once you make a statement, it is forever stays there in that blockchain. It is a chain of commands. They're all connected. So you cannot lie today and then you come up with a new lie tomorrow. Is not going to work out because they have to agree upon your lying. They all catch you with what they call minors. They call minors means MINER. These are the democratically people. They do with the computer power. They do that. So why do you need a this thing? Why do you need a blockchain? Patient privacy. If you're telling patients privacy is so important now, the reason is insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies wanted to get a lot of information about the patient's demographics and their disease product process, and they can sell more medicines and disease protocols, or they can sell the insurance premiums. They can raise up, or selectively they can pick up the areas that they're only interested in, and they can leave rest of the people in the trouble, very high risk people, they can leave it. So blockchain is a key. Blockchain is not a cryptocurrency. Blockchain is the Bitcoin came out of the blockchain technology. Blockchain, but it is not a blockchain. Is not a cryptocurrency. It is a mathematical hash functions it works on. It is immutability. It's a mathematically impossible to penetrate that kind of process. But true blockchain is a central to the protecting the privacy of the patients, privacy of the patient physician relationship. That's why we have done a fairly good understanding of the blockchain is important. Then the next one is a care journey. Why do you need to learn a care journey? I'm going to tell you why you need to learn a care journey. This is called user experience. The Sheila was talking about her father going through the journey of this cancer journey, that it is so painful and so tragic. It's so painful to the whole family members, and not only for the patients and their own the family members. Care journey is critical to understand what the family, what the patient goes through from beginning to the end, or what their family members go through. It is social determinants is a part of it, in fact. So a person coming from they have to find if they don't have a children, or they don't have anybody supporting them, they need to come to the doctor's office. Who is going to bring them? So they need to call a Uber. They need to know how to operate the iPhone, or the new technology. And if they're older, they may not be able to have a cognition that they can able to do that. So then they come to the doctor's office, where they pick up the medicines. They have to go to pharmacy and pick up the medicine. They go home, and all this journey, you have to really understand that you can quantify it, and quality analysis you can do, and that the care journey can give that journey. Okay, that's a I don't like the word UX. Actually, human journey, human experience is the most important. I use the word human experience. That is a better word. Care journey. That's you need to understand how they bring them into you can quantify the care journey through technology, and step by step, and make it easier for the patients go through this whole process, not only for the patients, their social determinants aspect of it, and their family members. That's very important. Then why you need to know about consciousness, quantum physics? Why do you need to learn a quantum physics about what is anything to do with the quantum physics? I'm going to play a quick video on that, and then after that, just to give me 1 second, i'm um, I'm going to, I think I did. Okay. I'm going to play this video, consciousness, see why consciousness is important. Quantum Physics for Doctors, Mystery Object in Medicine by Ramana Annamaraju. Dr. Champagne is a critical care physician and faculty member at Stony Brook University School of Medicine and a member of Pulmonary Critical Care Division. Dr. Panya is the prime investigator for a large study across multiple medical centers around the world about bringing people from cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is the arrest of pumping blood due to the malfunction of electrical activity in the heart. Cardiac arrest results in death within minutes without quick resuscitation. The resuscitation is the combination of procedural techniques of bringing someone from edges of death. One of those resuscitation techniques is a cardiopulmonary resuscitation, popularly known as CPR. Any delay administering in CPR, even for minutes, results in certain death. But there are certain exceptions and anomalies that raises several questions than answers in medicine and science.
34-year-old Audrey Mash went hiking with her husband on November 3rd when things took a turn for the worse. The couple got lost and Audrey went into cardiac arrest from severe hypothermia. But 6 hours after her heart stopped beating, doctors at Barcelona's Vall d'Hebron hospital were able to resuscitate her.
Amazing. It's like a miracle.
Audrey Schumann fully recovered and went back to her life as Audrey Schumann. Listen carefully what I said. She came back to life after dead for 6 hours as Audrey Schumann, not as a Margaret Thatcher, not as an African princess. Which one or what entity told her she is still Audrey Schumann? This is not some religious or a philosophical question. This is still under purview of scientific inquiry, particularly the process of cardiac arrest. Dr. Champagne is a prime investigator for the study called AWAKE, examines the process of dying and reviving. He conducted these studies in multiple medical centers around the world with reputable physicians with more than 2,000 subjects who went through cardiac arrest and successfully revived. Dr. Champagne argues there is a presence of some entity that is external to our world, beyond our space and time, reminding Audrey Schumann her identity. That entity is called consciousness. The study is a scientific odyssey of consciousness, the journey through an unknown world about some kind of a subjective awareness. Dr. Champagne had faced resistance from scientific establishment without giving a due process and trying to sweep the studies under the carpet. The detractors' claim is the so-called consciousness has no place in the field of medicine. But Panya may have support from an entirely surprising field that is not so related to medicine, that is quantum cosmology. Andre Linde, a well-known Russian-American professor of physics at Stanford University, gives a mathematical proof for the existence of consciousness. Linde was one of the authors of the theory of inflation. Professor Linde is a member of the National Academy of Sciences. When you apply quantum laws to the entire universe, the total energy of the universe must be equal to zero. If that is the case, nothing happened, nothing should happen, and nothing will happen in the entire history of universe. If everything is a zero-sum game, the act of you watching this video never happened. But the facts dispute, you know you're watching it. That is a scientific paradox. To solve this paradox, quantum cosmologists reluctantly injected an entity called a conscious observer. Your physical body is not excluded from the universe, but your consciousness is. Your mind became an observer. Now the entire energy of the universe can be equal to zero, your consciousness being the recorder of the history of the universe. Consciousness is the only way out to satisfy the mathematical equations of the universe. British professor of cognitive and computational neuroscience at the University of Sussex, England, argues there is only one thing there is. It is consciousness, and there is no evidence for anything else. But as a physician, you are wondering what is a patient's care is anything to do with the consciousness. But physician and the brain of a patient have one common purpose: keeping patient alive. You don't have to be smart to feel pain, just you need to be alive. Inside the brain, there are no lights, no sounds, no smells, and only electrical signals. We recognize and experience these signals through interpretations as a reality. It is certainly second person's perspective, mistaken for direct experiences.
A fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. Then both hands are simultaneously stroked with a paintbrush while the person stares at the fake hand. Now, for most people, after a while, this leads to the very uncanny sensation that the fake hand is in fact part of their body. And the idea is that the congruence between seeing touch and feeling touch on an object that looks like a hand and is roughly where a hand should be is enough evidence for the brain to make its best guess that the fake hand is in fact part of the body.
The famous rubber hand illusion and the extension of that one is with the magician David Blaine performing touch experiment with the actor Will Smith and his wife Jada Pinkett. In both experiments, Blaine is wrongly guessing someone is poking them without being touched. Brain is clearly confused what is and what is not parts of its body. But brain has a bigger responsibility, keeping you alive. Sensory signals coming from inside the body are continuously telling the brain about its state of its internal organs, how the heart is doing, what the blood pressure is like, and so on. Patient perception is not just hysteria, it is a valid signal from the brain. Brain is a resident real-time monitoring system for keeping physiological variables within the bounds for its own survival. Anil Seth and his colleagues believe consciousness acts like a software platform for the biological interactions. Patient is not only a conscious observer of his or her own body, but also a particular participant. You can witness manifestation of consciousness in the doctor's waiting room, particularly if they are Medicare patients. In 1996, a group of people between the ages of 19 and 24 and a group of older people between the ages of 60 and 80 were asked to count out 3 minutes in their heads without watching a clock. The group between the ages of 19 and 24 clocked an almost perfect 3 minutes and 3 seconds of real time, but the older group did not stop until the staggering 3 minutes and 40 seconds. In a paper published recently by Duke University professor Adrian Bejan presents an argument based on the physics of a neural signal processing. He hypothesizes as we grow older, brain processing power is inversely proportional to the time in their mind. So older patients feel time is moving faster than real clock because their time scale is different in their conscious mind. As a physician, if you think there is only objective-based medicine, that's all there is. It is certainly a wrong conclusion. Next time, if you are walking by a patient on a life support system, show respect as they are conscious, reminding yourself Dr. Champagne's studies. Next time, before you dismiss a patient is hysterical, think of Dr. Anil Seth's studies that the patient's brain is the best patient monitoring system there is. If a Medicare patient complains he or she spends more time in waiting room than others, you realize Dr. Adrian Bejan studies patient's conscious time is different than clock on the wall. If you try to understand the conscious observer behind every patient, you see a great wonder and a mystery. You will become a perfect healer of body and mind. Computers cannot replace physician as such because the still unknown, still mysterious entity called consciousness is not computable. Only other conscious observer like you has the power to understand. This is Ramana Hannamaraju. Thank you for watching.
Fascinating. Can you hear me? I can't hear.
Sorry about that. Observer and observer. Observer is a patient. Observer is a doctor. So they have to have that certain sacrifice, that kind of relationship they need to have. That's the reason you need to understand the understanding the consciousness. But what do you think of my presentation?
It was excellent, fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Loved it.
Yeah, thank you. So, Sheila, that you went through so much of a personal pain and all those things. You wrote a book, right? The book is, what is the name of the book, and how did you find that book? A lot of
Yes.
people, that's useful for patients who are going through this journey. One of the family members definitely going through a terminal cancer or in hospices. They can understand how they need to navigate this complex healthcare system or their journey itself. You wrote a book. Tell me about that a little bit more.
Absolutely, sure. The book is called Pack Your Own Healthcare Parachute, A Physician's Death Through His Daughter's Eyes. And it is a tale about my father as a physician, then turned patient, is about our advocacy for him and the real pain and agony that we go through our own personal journeys in accepting his illness and then having to make sure that everything is done to help my father in this new system of care. And it's a really heartwarming story about the kind of doctor he was. I tell about a lot of stories about him, his sense of humor. I call him the healer of the mind, body, and soul. And I truly think that he may have fit one of your polymath physicians because he was a lover of art. He could paint and draw, and he could also cite Rumi poems from the top of his head, and for any occasion. He was quite impressive man, and wish he were alive to share the stories in the book himself.
Where can you find that? Where can you find that book? How did they find it?
You can find it on Amazon now. So you just go to the book section, find Pack Your Own Healthcare Parachute, A Physician's Death Through His Daughter's Eyes.
Thank you. It is truly an honor to talk with you, Sheila. It's a very educational, and I learned about you, and your journey is very important for the rest of the world also. They need to know the family members going through. Thank you. It's truly an honor to talk with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Ramana. Pleasure.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.